Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a seriously fascinating piece of source material that is, quite frankly, going to fundamentally challenge how you interact with the digital world. I want you to take a hard look at the screens around you right now and ask yourself a really serious question about your own digital agency.
So, are your choices actually yours, or were they programmed by an algorithm? Let's dive right into this provocative question. Our source material introduces us to this wild concept it calls the machine lords. Now, these aren't your typical sci-fi Terminator-style robots. No, rather, they represent the pervasive algorithms and platforms that just thrive on our unquestioned digital obedience. They literally feed on our passivity. But you know what? There's absolutely a way out.
And this quote from the text's sage, Zoran the Dragon, sets the stage perfectly. He says, "A mortal's sovereignty is never stolen. It is only forgotten, until the day he remembers that he was born free." This brilliantly illustrates the core premise of our journey today. Listen, you haven't permanently lost your power to the algorithms. You just need to wake up and remember that you actually have it. Your sovereignty hasn't been stolen by some line of code. It's just lying dormant.
Section 1. The quiet revolution begins, the subtlest shift in the digital age. Let's move on and see how this all starts.
Now, we so often think of revolutions as these loud, chaotic uprisings, right? Banners, shouting in the streets, the whole shebang. But what's really interesting here is how the protagonist of our text, Fletcher Soul Traveler, sparked a massive, seismic revolution through 4 totally silent, intensely personal decisions. He decided, I will choose what I believe. I will choose what I consume. I will choose what I create. And I will choose who I am. The exact moment you actively declare, I will choose what I consume, rather than just passively accepting whatever the feed hands you, well, that's when the machine lords lose their most precious resource, your unquestioned obedience.
As Zoran the Dragon puts it, sovereignty begins in the heart long before it appears in the world. So the crucial point here is that regaining control over your digital life, it's an inside job first. It doesn't start with dramatically deleting all your apps or, throwing your phone into a lake. It begins with a quiet internal declaration of your own boundaries. You kind of just have to feel that subtle but unmistakable return of your own inner authority.
Section 2. Escaping the algorithmic trap. How choice was buried. To understand how we break free, we really have to look at how we got trapped in the first place.
Algorithmic nudges, curated feeds, predictive suggestions, engineered emotions, addictive loops. The source text makes an absolutely vital distinction here. The machine lords didn't actually remove your ability to choose, not at all. They simply buried it under this overwhelming, non-stop avalanche of constant digital manipulation. They made the passive route so incredibly frictionless that making an active choice just started to feel like way too much work.
But here is the actual map out of the maze. Notice how this procedural ladder visually represents Fletcher's climb right out of algorithmic dominion. It starts small, choosing what to watch. Then, even more importantly, choosing what to ignore. Choosing what to believe. Choosing what to question. Choosing what to create. It escalates all the way from passive screen time up to the ultimate power move, choosing exactly when to disconnect. Put together, these small steps form a massive rebellion. Mortals reclaim their crowns one choice at a time. Just let that profound thought breathe for a second. Every single time you intentionally close an app instead of endlessly doom scrolling, or every time you pause before sharing some highly emotionally charged post, that small intentional pause is a massive act of rebellion. You are literally putting the crown back on your own head.
Now let's really slow down here because this definition completely shifts our understanding of what it actually means to be truly free in a modern, hyper-connected world. Autonomy. It is not independence from machines, but independence from manipulation. Being autonomous doesn't require you to pack up, move to an off-grid cabin in the woods, and never touch a computer again. It simply means independence from the manipulation. You can use the tools, for sure, but the tools can no longer use you.
So what does the autonomous mind actually look like in practice? Well, it thinks before reacting, it questions before accepting, it reflects before sharing, it pauses before consuming, and it actively chooses before obeying. These traits are essentially kryptonite to algorithms. By doing these things, you completely break their predictive models. You become totally unpredictable to the machine lords, and unpredictability, that is the ultimate enemy of algorithmic control.
And this brilliantly illustrates the natural collapse of that control.
As Zoran says, mortals do not overthrow the machine lords. They simply stop kneeling. You don't need to wage some kind of dramatic, violent war to take back your mind. Algorithmic dominion requires compliance, and compliance requires unconsciousness. Once your consciousness rises, the dominion just simply falls apart. The platforms lose their grip the exact moment you just stop kneeling.
Section 3. Reclaiming Identity and Community, the Deepest Battleground. Let's see how this builds from the individual out to our real-world relationships.
What's really interesting here is the stark contrast we see. The machine lords completely thrive when we are isolated, distracted, divided, atomized, and entirely dependent. That is exactly how they keep us endlessly scrolling. But when citizens reconnect outside of that algorithmic control, truth spreads, awareness grows, autonomy strengthens. It turns out that sovereignty is actually contagious. A truly reconnected community is this incredibly powerful network of resistance, forged through shared consciousness.
A mortal who knows himself cannot be ruled. The ultimate realization from our source text is that your true identity can never, ever be programmed through platform metrics. The algorithms are always going to try to shape you. They'll use tribal suggestions, emotional manipulation, the works. But identity is forged entirely through your own conscious choice. The very moment you say, "I will define myself," you become impossible to rule.
Section 4. Rise of the Sovereign Citizen. Unpredictable by design. This brings us to the triumphant final chapter of our explainer, the reawakening of the unbreakable human spirit.
This right here is where the machine lords' models just completely fail. Algorithms demand neat, predictable, perfectly categorized data. But humans? Oh man, we are wildly creative. We're emotional. We are highly intuitive, delightfully chaotic, fiercely imaginative, and stubbornly rebellious. It is exactly these messy, chaotic, beautiful human traits that make us completely impossible to fully govern. We are not programmable machines.
Mortals are wild creatures. They cannot be domesticated by code. This wise reflection from Zoran perfectly punctuates the ultimate failure of algorithmic control against our fundamental human resilience. You simply cannot be domesticated by code, unless, of course, you willingly hand over the leash.
And that leads us to the ultimate goal presented in the text, becoming the sovereign citizen. The sovereign citizen uses machines without being used by them and creates art without chasing metrics. I really want to emphasize this point. A sovereign citizen isn't defined by avoiding technology altogether. They are defined by their highly conscious engagement with it. They form their own identity without asking for algorithmic permission. They create purely for the joy of creation, not to chase some viral metric.
So what does this all mean for us today? Will you continue to be shaped by algorithms? Or will you choose to remember your sovereignty? I want to leave you with this provocative challenge to immediately apply these concepts. Think about the very next time you pick up your phone or open a new browser tab. Are you going to fall back into those engineered loops? Or are you going to take a breath, pause, and choose to remember your sovereignty?
Mortals were born sovereign. They simply forgot. Now they remember. I'll end on this final resonant thought from Zoran. The power has actually always been yours. You were literally born free. And hey, if you've forgotten, that is totally okay. Today is the absolute perfect day to remember. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.